Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Elizabeth. Perfect song. It's 7 o'clock. I shall call to order. Trustees attending remotely, I would like to verify your presence. Trustee Kelly, you're requested to attend remotely. Are you there? Trustee Kelly? Trustee Kelly, are you there? Okay. We shall come back. Call to order. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular board meeting of the Halton Catholic District School Board on Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed and will also be posted on the board's YouTube channel. Trustees, in order to be recognized, please use the hand up feature in Teams to be placed in queue automatically. And please remember to turn your desk mics on when you speak. Item 1.1, land acknowledgement, the opening prayer, the Our Father and national anthem. I now ask staff to please start us off with the land acknowledgement.
Halton, as we know it today,
is rich in the history and modern traditions
of many First Nations and the Métis.
From the lands of the Anishinaabe
to the Attawandaron,
the Haudenosaunee,
and the Métis.
These lands surrounding the Great Lakes
are steeped in Indigenous history.
As we gather today
on these treaty lands,
our Catholic social teachings
call us in solidarity
with our Indigenous brothers and sisters
to honor and respect
the four directions:
lands, waters, plants, animals,
and ancestors
that walked before us.
All of these wonderful elements of creation exist,
gifted to us by our Creator God.
We acknowledge and thank
the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation
for being stewards of this traditional territory.
Trustee Philbert, would you please lead us in the opening prayer, the Our Father and national anthem?
Yep, so I just wanted to start off with the New Year prayer since this is our first official board meeting of 2025. And if you all join me in the sign of our faith, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. O God, our Father, we thank you for protecting us and bringing us safety through another year. Help us to grow not only in body, but also in heart and mind. May we look upon each new day as another chance to follow you more closely. And as the new year unfolds, may we be more merciful towards others and more generous in serving you. And if you could all join me in the saying of Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Father, Son, Spirit.
True faith to love.
Thank you, Trustee Filbert, for the opening. Item 1.2, motions arising from in-camera. There were no motions arising from the in-camera session that will need a vote in the public session. Our next order of business is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda? And do trustees want any item removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda? Trustee Saunders moves. Vice Chair Murphy seconds it. I'll take it to a recorded vote. Trustee Kennedy?
In favor.
Trustee Ohan Chinada?
In favor?
Vice Chair Murphy?
In favor.
Trustee Kelly?
In favor.
Trustee Saunders?
In favor.
Trustee Filbert?
In favor?
Trustee Carabella?
In favor.
We have 6 in favor, none opposed, no abstention. Motion carries.
Point of order, Mr. Chair?
Who's that? Trustee Powell?
Yes.
Go online.
I've been, yep. I'm in favor.
Then a request to join online, Trustee Powell?
Pardon me, is there a request?
A request to join online?
A formal request? No, I sent Elizabeth a message.
Policy I-28 requires trustees to notify the chair. So kindly, I've notified you in the past, so kindly moving forward in future, please make sure you follow the policy I-28. Thank you. How do you vote, Trustee Powell?
Vote in favor.
We have 7 in favor, none opposed, no abstention. Motion carries. We shall now move on to declarations of conflict of interest, which is item number 3 on the agenda. Are there any conflicts of interest to be declared tonight? Seeing none, we shall move on to our next order of business, which is presentations. Item 4.1, senior staff updates, director's annual report. Director Klein, please present annual report.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, everyone. This is one of the most enjoyable evenings in that we get to talk about the work that thousands of people have done over the last year. You'll note that the feels like we're a little off in terms of timing because, as most boards do, by the end of the calendar year, they produce some report around the success of their MYSP and the work that's been done to give it flesh and to move boards forward. This board traditionally does that in the January, so I just asked for that memory that we are looking at the 23-24 report regarding our MYSP, and that the new one that we have now is actively engaged, and we'll be doing updates on that as the months unfold. Also, a reminder that I think you were all given a little 5x7 card that on it has a QR code that can be accessed to delve into the updates on what we've done with regard to our priorities. I don't know if there's a report that has as much content as this one, so I'm going to apologize ahead of time because what I'm going to be doing is moving through it fairly quickly, and it isn't always fun to do that, particularly when you're getting to photos of some of our students who have succeeded in many ways, who have participated in some of our programs that are unique and tailored to try and meet the diverse needs of our students. So with that, I do apologize. I'm also going to really quickly, just for my own sake, read from just a small paragraph that goes as an addendum to the report, and it's online, so I just pulled it up for myself. But I think it's important. The director's annual report provides a snapshot. I think that's the key word. It's just of all the things that happen, kind of like going through the year with your family and finding snapshots of things. It doesn't necessarily hit everything, but it certainly shows key moments of the great things happening across our school district. The real story of accomplishment, however, is captured daily within the walls of our schools and our workplaces through the many individual successes that are celebrated by students, staff, and members of our Catholic learning communities. And those include, of course, our parishes, our community partners, and our families. So I want to make sure we're aware of that. Sorry, I just gotta. I'm not seeing what you're seeing. All right. What I've tried to do when we see each of these pillars, we have our 4 pillars, and then we have 15 goals in those, 3, 3, 3, and then 5 in our final pillar or our final priority. What I've tried to do is come up with a few words to, as we go through each of them, to kind of reflect what I think are the highlights of them. So the first priority we have or pillar is achieving. Of course, for our new policy or new MYSP, that hasn't changed. The words that came to me as I walked through this was excellence, responsiveness, celebration, and diversity. So let's walk through this. And again, I forgive as I skip over some wonderful faces. And the goals for these, again, were 3. When it comes to some of the responses that we had in just connecting with Dr. Collymore, we go back to our community every year to get some feedback. When you're into your 8th year of an MYSP, some of the responses might not be as glowing as you would hope. These differ not that much from the year before when I was talking to her earlier. Again, this is to be noted. Student excellence, again, was the first word I came up with regard to a brief description. And here's where I go skipping through some wonderful faces. We want to remember that we had it seems like a long time ago, but it was only in April of last year, our annual awards of excellence. That's a face right there. Vote for him. And again, we see the celebrations and the reflections of each of our communities. Some of the kids I'm sure you even recognize from some of the award ceremonies and others. Again, the reflection of strong homes and families and communities that have helped form our students. Because in our system, that word formation is key to what we do in Catholic schools. And again, myriad of examples of celebration, and to see these students with their faces and their names on our website, again, I hope does their schools and their families proud. IB, this is where I have the sense of diversity and responsiveness. We have a wide array of programs, and again, we had here and this part of it, our top IB graduating student. And if you were to look at the marks and look at the milestones that she attained, again, certainly not something that was in my history, and something, again, I think to be very proud of her and her family and her school. And then a little bit about the IB program. We had recipients for, as we have in past years, the Governor General's Bronze Medal. And that's the long list of them. Again, the marks were, for many of us, only ones that were existing in theory, not in reality, as we went through school. Schulich Leadership Scholarship, Leader Scholarship, again, highlighted here. Pura Amadi. I had the good fortune last year of being up at Bishop Redding. It felt like everything old is new again, where we had, where they had created a replica of a late 1890s vehicle. And in this case, they had turned it into an electric vehicle. And the work that had gone into the designing, into the engineering around how to make this thing move was phenomenal. And again, another example of the creativity and the focus that our staff and our students have. And again, if you were to go onto the website, we have clips around it as well. I have a memory of the principal of Bishop Redding going around in that vehicle, and I thought we don't want to have a staff member injured, but he did okay. High Performance Regional Sports Program, again, we had the initiation of the High Performance Sports Program at St. Francis Xavier. Other boards have moved forward with that as well, and this, again, in its infancy, so to speak, has borne fruit and shown great success. And we even, over this last week, we had people calling and looking at how to get into it for next year or the years to come. And then we have examples of stuff as well. We have some great examples of reports that Superintendent Del Sordo has offered to us over the last months, and these go into the idea of pathways and trades, and an idea that, or concept that in the province of Ontario, and certainly at our board, and certainly as the core of our MYSP, that we're engaged in a conversation with our students and their families fairly early on about where they see a pathway for themselves emerging in the sort of the fog of the future that lies ahead of them. We do a lot of work, and a lot of people do a lot of work to ensure they have a sense of what might be so. So skilled trades career fair is again one way that we meet the needs of our students with that in mind. Second in line, but not second in our hearts necessarily, is the believing priority. For that, the words that came to mind for me were the living faith, and also that there's a theme or a pattern to what we do in terms of our believing priority. And I think it does reflect really our Catholicism and our traditions. So if you know that we have pretty consistent themes in our faith, and you'll see it come through here as well. Fairly good results with regard to the feedback from our families. And the themes, of course, start with our theological theme, which is rooted in Micah, and also in such things as our Catholic Education Week. We just heard music as a theme for this coming Catholic Education Week, but Catholic Education Week, notwithstanding the fact that it takes place in the first full week of May, it is something that is celebrated or runs as a theme or some type of thread through the whole year. And of course, the fact that we have a living faith, and a faith that goes out to the margins, and a faith that responds to the needs of the community, a faith that is in action, so to speak. So all these examples of what we do as a board, keeping Christ in Christmas, of course, for those of you who are trustees, of course, is a big one, a key one, because it, I think, really puts a fine point on the Christmas season and what we do here at Christmas. And again, good examples of the charitable work that goes on constantly in our schools and has been the hallmark of Catholic schools for generations. And of course, that was a theme of last year's Catholic Education Week. And the hope, I would think, of parents who send their students to our schools, that we are ones who reflect that God lives within us. And then again, lots of areas to go into in terms of looking at this. Journeying with Jesus, and then all the opportunities for students to showcase their talents. Just adding on, as it was at near the end of the year, the Fill a School Bus food drive, which is again another example of all our schools and our partners at HSTS working to meet the needs of Halton Region. And more and more and more. Making these decisions to put one thing or another on is a conversation that's ongoing. It's not easy. It's really sort of those choices of how many amazing charitable works should we put in? We have to cut them back, actually. So it's a lesson in compromise, as is the way of the world. Belonging. That I saw accountability, variety, collaboration, and the word of tailoring kind of came for me as well. There's other words we could have used as well, but those are the words that came up. I was going to go with a relationship because I think that's the heart of all education, and it certainly starts off here as we walk through it. Staff training is important. Community has high expectations of our staff, not just teachers, but educational assistants and everyone else who's in our board. It is professions that we are the practitioners of, and those require reflection, they require diligence, and there's it requires from boards as well opportunities to help staff become stronger at their work, more competent and more confident. And again, links into all the training sessions that we would have had, and a good sense of the number of training sessions, notwithstanding the ones that are ongoing and go unmarked sometimes. What I liked about the tailoring was the fact that we have within belonging the celebration of the full community here at Halton, and a sense of our mission and our call to ensure that the voices who might be marginalized and unheard, and those who have deserve more, receive more. And we've certainly done a lot of work from kindergarten through to adult ed in terms of responding to those needs. See a good examples of the work we've done to celebrate Black excellence in our schools and in our community. Accountability was the word that came to mind here in terms of our online reporting tools. There are other boards who have certainly seen what we do and asked how and why and when, and let's get on this, because it is an example of us shining a light and not turning away from imperfection, so that we can ensure the safety in all its ways for all our staff and students. Here we get into the sense of our tailored programming, our tailored and responsive programming for all our students at our board. And this clip would show a bit about life skills and cooperative education programs that I'd invite you to look at. The fact that mental health is something that we don't take for granted, that we understand that the success, the safety and the well-being and the achievement of our students also has to be something that is that rests on the assurance that mental health is also addressed. Pride Month, of course, here in June, sense of courageous inclusion and a voice that says yes beyond the month of June is something that is, again, important here at Halton Catholic and to the community around it. And of course, you will recall that we have the opportunity every year to gather, as we usually do, in celebration and in prayer, to honor those who have marked certain milestones in their career, and including the milestone all of us aspire to, which is a healthy, happy step forward into retirement, and recognition that this is not just a place where people put in hours and people collect a paycheck, but that for certainly the staff that I encounter, this is a calling, and this is something that they feel blessed to be able to do. I get those letters from staff when they retire for a variety of reasons. So I'm either CC'd or it's to me, and it is consistent where people approach that with a sense of gratitude and a sense that they've been blessed to be able to do this. That unlike many other jobs, there's something about the work we do that makes one feel that they are part of a bigger call, that they are part of a bigger mission, and that by that they feel more fulfilled and more blessed. And certainly we are. We have many board committees and many other agencies that find as part of their work the ongoing call to reach out to others, to hear from voices from as diverse a community as possible. And SEAC is a very good example of that, and a very good example of a very healthy and thriving one as well. And more and more and more. And some of you, I think, have attended some of these as well. I always said one of the beauties of this job is if you're having a rough day, you can walk into a kindergarten class and it's less rough automatically. Or you can go to the Best Buddies dance, step out of there feeling a lot better as well. As long as you haven't tried to dance, I suppose. foundational elements. So obviously, as we think about moving into the chapter that is our current MYSP and what you'll hear months from now, you know, this has shifted a bit in terms of our language, but the foundational elements are really important. Almost think of it as the girders that make up what we do here. And there's a lot to be proud of, particularly if you are someone who's spent time where you've had your students or your kids at other boards, we've worked at other boards. I think there's some things here that are very, very unique and worthy of praise as well. The words that struck me through this are growth, efficiency, reflection, and renewal. So let's walk through this a little bit. Growth, growth, and growth. And maybe we'll see little ebbs as we go into the next year or two, but this has got to be a banner year for growth. We were continually either turning sod somewhere or snipping a ribbon somewhere or getting updates on sites in all their forms and seeing, you know, slowly something come from nothing into what are beautiful boards. I was talking to a director of education today from a board that's considered more rural, I would think. They haven't built a school in decades. And so they were coming here to visit to see a few of our schools just to get a sense of it. And it was beautiful to see what we've experienced here set off some joy in the face of our colleagues, right, just in another part of the province, and who thought, oh, they can't wait. So now their excitement is something that I feel I've caught. I'd love to see when they build their school for their students and their communities that are very different than us, but all the same, very worthy of this. So growth, growth, and growth. And we start here with a nice picture of, again, the announcement that I know Trustee Ahern Trinata and others have worked very hard on it. And maybe we thought at some point, no, it's not going to happen. And it happened. And I do remember that day. It was a very great day to celebrate. I don't think we knew that was coming too until really right before it. Just good news is always good, isn't it? The names of the schools, of course, good opportunity for school communities to think about that. In our tradition, saints are important to us, and other theological themes are important to us as well. Very often we go for saints because they are models for us of a lived faith and a faith well lived, and we all, of course, aspire to that. Falling down occasionally, but rising back up. Again, there's only one number one, and I think this is worth celebrating as well. Number one ranked school board in Ontario for energy efficiency. And energy efficiency isn't just, you know, dollars and cents. We've saved money on this. That's important. But we are a people of faith, and we do know that one of the first writings that Pope Francis presented to us was Laudato Si, and it is, I guess, at the root of Franciscan stance toward creation, is that we are here to be stewards of creation. We are here to celebrate that and to see that God is reflected in everything around us. And so the work we do to be efficient in terms of energy is respectful to the earth and respectful to the resources that our community has. I talked earlier about, this is where I have the reflection or reflective part here, the disproportionality reports. It was not long ago when there were many things that are data we didn't take here or many other boards. And to look at data that sometimes shows gaps, there's nothing wrong with that. It just shows us where we're at. We go to the doctor, we get data. It is what it is. Can't debate it, can't say that's not wrong, that's, you know, that's a wrong number. It is what it is, and we learn from it, and we try and be more healthy. And it's not judgmental. It's just a milestone that helps us mark the path ahead of us. So we have a series of these, and I'm very proud of these. And I'm proud of the community that doesn't, to a large extent, turn these around and look at it, aha, or gotcha. it says that we're fearlessly looking at things. And data is data. Data gets more rich. Sometimes there's gaps in it. There's a lot of context. If you were to go into some of these, one of the things they would say early on is, you gotta kind of know the context of this. We might have a lot of information here, but the other one might be a little dry this year. And to work them together provides something, but it's not gospel. But this is certainly a light that shines ahead in the pathway. We are only as strong here as our staff, and our staff is one that's continually shifting, and one that we need to ensure is found and brought to us. We're in a competitive market, and we are in an area that has a changing population, and we want to ensure that our staff as well reflects that too. And there's ways we can do this, and there's challenges to how we do this. And the conversations around that are ongoing. And the why around that, I think, are things that are understood, and that's important. So if we get over the why part, then the hows, I think, won't necessarily settle themselves, but it's a little easier sledding once we do that. And of course, the stewardship of the resources that we have as well, in all their complexities, is something too that's important in terms of our efficiency and our growth and how to manage that. And then as we end the discussion of the MYSP that's just ending, perfect opportunity to say, and by the way, as we ended that year, we approved and began the new strategic plan as well, which is something I think that's a real point of pride. And you've heard me say it before, but I think one of the things that's a highlight for me of this is I think the fearlessness of the trustees. And I remember at one point where it was, okay, let's press pause. I don't think we have enough feedback from certain communities, and said, well, let's pause it and get it. So this is going to mark our way for the next 4 years. We better get it right, or as close to right as possible. So everything about this, I think, is worth celebrating, from its branding, as they say, or the aesthetics here, with the never-ending kind of infinite design here, the colors that blend into one another, the believing at the top, sort of rooting it, I think is quite beautiful and quite engaging. It might not promise us success, but it is a good edge of a pool to hold on to when we're wondering about whether the decisions we're making are the best or not, that we can put our hand on that. And there's a smiling face here you'll recognize as well. I spent 4 hours in front of a camera. I don't see me here, but apparently the chair of the board gets to be there as well. And you can look at that and hear the words of wisdom that come from Chair Duhard. So this is a report about everything. But I want to celebrate the fact, and I hope that you highlight in your minds the fact that this is a celebration of the fruits of the labor of a ton of people. And I think it's important, first of all, that I say thank you to all those people, whether it's, the ECE, who is struggling to ensure that a 3.5-year-old is learning some of the basics of social interactions, let's say, or whether it's someone who is in guidance in a high school, who's sitting and having those heart-to-hearts with a student who is really struggling about what their next steps are in life, and that they are accompanying those young men and women at that. Those are grace-filled moments, and I hope that for those staff and those parents and others, that they, when they close their eyes at night, they recognize that those are grace-filled, and that they get a bit of a reward here, but they will be rewarded in heaven as well. Thus ends my report. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Director Klein, for presenting your annual report. At this point in time, I shall now open up the floor to trustees for questions or comments on your report. So trustees, please put a hand up if you have any comments. Trustee Carabella, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you again to echo all the gratitude that the director just put forth and what our schools are achieving with parents and students and teachers all working together. So I had a question with some of the surveys that we received. So that did those people give any suggestions for in areas of improvement? Or did we receive raw data on that? And did we see that as trustees, or was that just to our?
I think the short answer to that is no, but I'm going to see if Dr. Collmore has anything else she'd want to add to that.
Go ahead, Doug.
Good evening through you, Mr. Chair. So to Trustee Carabella, the survey did not have any question with open answers, so we don't have that. But the report, the survey report, it was included in Director Klein's report that's included in your package.
Thank you.
Trustee Carabella, follow up?
That's fine. Thank you.
Any other trustees have any questions, comments for Director Klein? Saying none, Director Klein, I want to say I'm very proud of the excellent work being done by all your staff through you, and for staying focused on the multi-year strategic plan, for supporting each and every student in our board, for staying true to the values we hold true, and staying true to the pillars that we talk about, achieving, believing, belonging, and becoming. So once again, big thank you to our superintendents here and the staff and the teachers and the support staff we have in our schools to make this a report of yours come together. So thank you so much for that. With that, we shall move on to our next order of business, which is delegations. Item number 5. There was one delegation that was declined and information was shared with trustees on January 17th, 2025. Shall now move on to our next order of business, which is consent agenda items. The following items have been agreed upon at the agenda approval to stay on the consent agenda. 6.1 is action items. Can we zoom in there? And 6.1.2 action policy reports and 6.2 noted items. We shall have one vote on the action items. We shall not be discussing noted items. And with that, I shall read the motion. Resolved that the Halton Catholic District School Board approve consent agenda items 6.1.1, 6.1.2.1, 6.1.2.2, 6.1.2.3, and 6.1.2.4 as submitted at the January 21st, 2025 regular board meeting. May I have a mover, please? Moved by Trustee O'Hearn-Janada and seconded by Trustee Carabella. I shall take this to a recorded vote. Trustee O'Hearn-Janada?
In favor?
Vice Chair Murphy?
In favor.
Trustee Kelly?
In favor.
Trustee Sanders? In favor. Trustee Yeboah? Trustee Filbert?
In favor.
Trustee Carabella?
In favor.
Trustee Powell?
I'm in favor.
Kennedy?
In favor.
We have 7 in favor, none opposed, no abstention. Motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. We shall skip over approval of the minutes. We shall skip over business arising from previous meeting. We now move on to item number 9, which is our next order of business action items. Item 9.1, Milton, number 11, Catholic Elementary School, boundary review. Superintendent Merrick, please speak to this item. It was a staff report at the last board meeting and it's now an action item. Superintendent Merrick, please speak to this report, and then I will read the motion and I will place it on the table. Superintendent Merrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, we have the action report to establish a committee to form the catchment for the Milton number 11 Catholic Elementary School. And as the chair mentioned, it is as presented at the December 17th board meeting, but happy to take any questions that trustees may have on this report.
Thank you, Superintendent Merrick, for your short report. Trustees, do we have questions for Superintendent Merrick? Trustee Carabella, your hand is up. Is it from the previous? Trustees, any other questions for Superintendent Merrick? If not, Shall call the vote. I shall now read the item, read the motion. Resolved that the Halton Catholic District School Board directs staff to initiate a school boundary review process to establish a new school boundary for the Milton number 11 Catholic Elementary School, address enrollment pressures in an elementary school in South and East Milton, and plan for future growth in the Agaton, Trafalgar, and Britannia secondary plan areas. Looking for a mover, please. Trustee Saunders moves. Looking for a seconder.
I'll second it.
Vice Chair Murphy moves. Trustees, any questions? Any further questions? Any last minute questions? Seeing none, I shall call the vote on action item 9.1. Vice Chair Murphy?
Favor.
Trustee Kelly?
In favor.
Trustee Saunders?
In favor.
Trustee Filbert?
In favor.
Trustee Carabella?
In favor.
Trustee Powell?
In favor.
Trustee Kennedy?
In favor.
Trustee Ohanchanada?
In favor.
We have 7 in favor, none opposed, no abstention. Motion carries. We'll now skip over all the policies. Our next order of business is staff reports, item number 10. 10.1, school year calendar. Superintendent Dinalfo, could you please present your report?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. The staff report's purpose is the Education Act requires each school board to establish a school year calendar that identifies instructional days, professional activity days, and holidays for each school year, which we know is really important for our parents to know the dates. The Ministry of Education mandates the number of instructional days for schools across the province, and in accordance with Regulation 304, each board must submit a ministry-approved calendar by March 1st. School year calendar committee takes into several factors when developing the school year calendar. The school communities have preference for scheduling our PA days on Fridays or Mondays adjacent to statutory holidays, and are more amicable to parents asking for those holidays to accommodate the PA days. There is also alignment of transportation services with the co-terminus board, the Halton District School Board, as is a critical consideration for our budget. The committee's consultation process adheres to ministry guidelines and to ensure coordination and compliance. For this committee, we have representatives. There's the parent representative from the Catholic Parent Involvement Committee, OECTA unit presidents from elementary and secondary, CUPE 3166 and 5200 representatives from the Principals Association. Thank you to Vice Chair Murphy, who is our trustee representative, and a representative from Halton Student Transportation Services. The committee met on December 3rd and on January 8th to form the calendar for 25-26, which includes 187 instructional days, 10 secondary exam days, 5 per semester in compliance with the regulation. There are 2 PA days allocated for assessment and completion of report cards at the elementary level, and 1 PA day for elementary parent-teacher interviews. We always include 3 mandatory provincial priority PA days. 7 PA days are aligned with the Halton District School Board. The 25-26 school year calendar will be presented to the Board of Trustees at the February 18th regular board meeting.
Thank you, Superintendent Dinalfo, for presenting the calendar. I shall now open up the floor to trustees for questions, comments. Trustee Kennedy, you have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Just wondering if our board is any different than the other boards around us, the Catholic boards that don't have the PA day on that first Tuesday like we do. Do we have an extra PA day or any difference?
Superintendent Dinalfo.
Through you, Chair. Trustee Kennedy, we do have conversation with the neighboring boards. It's been a decision with Halton District that we continue to do that Tuesday after Labor Day so that we align with first, it's a provincial priority day for us, and we have an opportunity to review all our policies and procedures and health and safety regulations that is required by us to do with our teachers that we can't do before September 1st. So that's when the school year starts for our teaching staff. So together with both boards, we feel that's a good day. The committee felt that it was a good day to continue that practice.
Trustee Kennedy. Other questions?
No, thank you. I just wonder if it was any different than other Catholic boards that don't have it on site. They do it after that, or they do it in the summer? Do you know?
Superintendent also.
Through you, Chair. Trustee Kennedy, from the boards that we met with, I didn't have any board that said they are doing it before. We did during COVID when the ministry mandated it. So we really can't start the school year before September 1st without special approval. But some of the other boards don't have a PA day to start the school year. They have it later in the month because a lot of the schools boards do organizations for their schools with their class placements, where we don't do that here in Halton Catholic.
Thank you. Any other trustees' questions? If not, thank you, Superintendent Dinolfo, and thank you, Trustee Vice Chair Murphy, for working on the committee, and it's appreciated. With that, we shall move on to our next order of business, which is information items. Item 11.1, Anti-Black Racism Strategic Plan Progress Report. Senior Manager Jaraman, please present your report.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you, Mr. Chair. So the attached report outlines the progress made towards implementing the recommendations by Halton Catholic District School Board in the year 2024 since the public release of the Anti-Black Racism Strategic Plan report in December 2023. There are 17 recommendations in the strategic plan proposed to be implemented over multiple years. We have categorized the recommendations into 5 broad themes: policies and programs, recruitment, hiring and retention, accountability and transparency, inclusive curriculum and school climate, and capacity building. This report contains highlights of system-level initiatives undertaken in alignment with the recommendations of the strategic plan over the course of the year 2024. Multiple departments, i.e. curriculum, human resources, safe schools, student success, and special education have contributed to this report. We'd also like to highlight that individual schools have undertaken numerous initiatives to center the well-being of Black students through specific goals in their student achievement plan. Those are not itemized in this report. In the first year since the release of the report and the recommendations, just over a third of the actions under the 17 recommendations have either been fully or partially implemented. So you'll see the legend at the bottom of the report. The green check mark indicates items that have been completed. The red check mark indicates items that have been initiated but not completed. And the blue check mark refers to action items that are ongoing. The recommendations that have not been initiated relate to those that have significant financial implications, or ones that are dependent on other recommendations being completed first, or ones that have been identified for implementation in the latter stages of the strategic plan. The work of establishing the steering committee is one of the most significant recommendations that has been implemented in 2024. The committee has been struck, and our first meeting is next week. There's much work ahead that needs to be done in collaboration with the steering committee to build trust and center the well-being of Black students and staff. We recognize that the work of dismantling anti-Black racism in HCDSB is inherently tied to our new multi-year strategic plan and is integral to our commitment to all students, families, and staff, and reflective of our mission, vision, and values at Halton Catholic. The report is shared for your reference. I'd be happy to answer questions, and I invite my colleagues from the different departments to address any specific questions related to their specific departments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chairman. Trustees, any questions for Ms. Chairman? Trustee Carabella, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just referring back to the recommendations, you said there were 17 and that they're all in here as well. It seems like there's more, but that's fine. You maybe split some up when I add this.
Go ahead, Ms. Chairman.
Yes, so there are 17 recommendations. However, each recommendation has multiple action items. So when you look at the original report that was released, there were 17 recommendations with over 75 action items that were listed to be implemented over a 3-year period. So this report only speaks to the action items that have been covered, because each recommendation had multiple action items, so we may have done 1 or 2 but not all of them.
Thank you, Trustee Kerala. Follow-up?
Follow-up is just going back to the original motion. Maybe we could see that again, or I haven't seen. Was that in the report as well?
No, it was a report in 2023. So maybe, Mr. Chairman, if you could send some information to Trustee Kerala to refresh and jog our memories. Yeah, it's been some time. So up next is Trustee Kennedy. You have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Just regarding achieving systems equity, do you have any examples of some of the recommendations the committee is looking to do to achieve this systems equity?
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So I have the copy of the original set of recommendations in front of me. So one of the recommendations, and I'm just going to read them in the order the way they were presented by Koski-Minsky, is to acknowledge anti-Black racism within the Halton Catholic District School Board. Recommendation 2, looking at policy and procedure amendment, that the Halton Catholic amend policies to clarify particular ways for students and staff to report incidents of discrimination and harassment. That's one recommendation. A recommendation would be to develop a board-wide action plan. Data collection is a systemic piece. So the recommendation was that, that the board gather specific data and look at incidents, for example, of hate or bias to address those. That's a systemic piece. There's systemic pieces around complaint investigation. There's systemic pieces around inclusive recruitment and hiring, ensure that principles of equity and inclusion be incorporated in the totality of the recruitment process. Inclusive mentorship and leadership development is another systemic recommendation. Anti-Black racism and curriculum training, another system recommendation. Trauma-informed services and restoration, Afrocentric pedagogy. So almost all of the 17 recommendations are about how we can dismantle systemic issues and advance system equity so that it's not being done in pockets here and there, but as a system we're advancing equity. So those are some of the examples, but this report, as was mentioned, was shared in its entirety at the December 23rd meeting, and I'd be happy to reshare.
Thank you. Trustee Kennedy, follow up? Okay. I'll come back to you. So Trustee Ohan Chandra, you're up next.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Just a question, the steering committee, which hasn't met yet, I heard that correctly. What will be its scope, or will that be something organic when you meet as a steering committee to create your scope, or is it prescribed already?
Mr. Ram.
Thank you for that question. So the scope of the steering committee is to really advise, inform, guide the work of advancing system equity within the context of the recommendations that have already been listed in that plan. But the committee, as you noted, has not met. So the committee will have, priorities in terms of this is what needs to be done. One of the recommendations is also that they create sort of a board-wide action plan based on these recommendations. So there are some parameters within which the committee will operate, which is the recommendations, but there might be additional items that the steering committee would really like to see and prioritize. And so we will be working in collaboration with the steering committee.
And just a comment. So once the steering committee meets and the priorities are aligned, please, part of our job as trustees is to help move this forward. So please, I'll be looking forward to seeing you back at the board table with any kind of priorities or recommendations you need from us. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Owen Chanada. Up next, Trustee Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, just to follow up from Trustee O'Hearn Shanada's question about the steering committee, you answered one part. The next part to that is the participants in there. Do you have guidance from Koski-Minsky as to who from our external stakeholders who you would include in the steering committee? Is that something you're allowed to share with us?
Mr. Ram?
Thank you for that question. So yes, the terms of reference had been provided for guidance by Koski-Minsky, and the composition of the steering committee included 4 parents/guardians from our system, 4 students from our system, 4 staff from the system, and 3 community organizations. So we sent out a call for membership, had interested applicants apply, and went through that process. In addition to these that I've just mentioned, we also have representation from senior leadership. Director Klein will be on that committee, as well as particular superintendents with responsibilities for safe schools or special education, representation from HR, representation from our research department, and from the Office of Human Rights and Equity.
Oh, that's excellent.
Thank you. Trustee Powell, do you have a follow-up question?
Thank you for that. My follow-up is just, will you, I guess to echo Trustee O'Hearn-Chinanas, just please keep us posted if there's anything that we can do. I have heard some feedback from parents that they're looking forward to hearing how this rolls out, and I think it's very important. So thank you for your work on that.
Thank you. I shall come back to Trustee Kennedy. You have the floor.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Just regarding accountability and transparency section, it says suspension data. How do we do the suspension data? Do we use the school, through you, Mr. Chair, do we use the school survey of those students who completed the survey? And so if a student is suspended, do we then see if they did the survey? And if they didn't do the survey, are they counted in the number?
I'll pass this to Ms. Jerem.
Yes, thank you for the question. I'm actually going to request Dr. Collymore to speak to the process because this data is again publicly available and has been gathered as part of the student census.
So through you, Mr. Chair. So the student suspension data, what we do is we take the suspension data from the Safe Schools office that's being collected and we link it to the census data. So it only includes those students who have completed the census. And then we prepared the disproportionality report, which we presented last year and is posted and was part of Director Klein's update.
Thank you, Trustee Kennedy. Follow-up?
Yeah, so just so I understand, so if a student did not complete the census, they're not included in the suspension data?
In the disproportionality report, yes, that's correct.
And do we know how many students completed the survey? Was it was like 60%?
I would have to go back and double check that number, but I can get it for you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions, trustees? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Chairman, for the presentation. We look forward to hearing, and I've let trustees know that I will be representing trustees on the committee. So thank you for that. With that, we shall now move.
Sorry, point of clarification. I did put my hand up. You just didn't notice.
Sorry, Trustee Carabella.
Yeah, thank you. Just through you, Mr. Chair. I just had a question about when the committee then meets and has recommendations. Are they coming to the board for approval for those, or how are those being implemented? Thank you.
So I think the committee will meet. They will have their terms of reference, and that will be brought to the board. Am I right, Ms. Chairman?
Yeah, so again, this is a new committee, so we will be looking at the recommendations, and any recommendations that are brought forward will be under the purview of Director Klein to look at, the operational aspects of it within the framework of how our board operates.
So Trustee Carabella, this will be like a working committee. Director Klein will bring reports back to us, and it'll be a report. It has to come to the board.
So just to follow up, it won't come back as a vote, just be an information item or update.
Yes. So my understanding of working committees, it comes as a report. It won't come for a vote to trustees because that's operational in nature, and staff will work on that. Director Klein.
Speak to yes, Chair. We're anticipating. I think Senior Manager Jayaraman noted this. I think we're on the brink of some, I think, fearless conversations and learning from us as school leaders. And one of the things we're very aware of is that we need to check ourselves in terms of, we have a sense of where we want to go. We have a sense from wise and prudent and hardworking stakeholders who've helped us. But to sort of go there, this is the math. day one, we do this, day two, we'll have our list of, you know, that we'll check off as we go, is, you know, the old ancient saying, you know, man plans and the gods laugh. So we want to make sure that we're not tempting fate on that. And also, we want to be respectful of the process and respectful of the community. Look at me as the leader in this committee, or heading toward this committee. I'd want to be as respectful and humble as possible to learn. And that might not be easy, but I think it's the best approach that we know of right now. And I think we're going to head into that very humbly and see where it leads us. It's exciting, and I think probably there's a bit of trepidation as we do it. I want to say one more thing before I finish, though. I think some of us have a sense of this came from emotion, and there's a root in what this board, notwithstanding the fact that we're going back a few years, it is still the board, has decided we want to move forward in. But I would be remiss if I didn't remind us that whether we're a board that's moved forward with this as we have at Halton Catholic, or have at other boards, or haven't had at other boards, or have done it in different ways, we didn't just come up with this on our own. I think it's important that sometimes we talk about documents and policies in Ontario that are at the root of things. Last time we met, I think Superintendent Kroll was talking about, when we met as a policy committee, we talked about growing success, which is like the foundation of assessment and evaluation and reporting in Ontario. Those are really important ones. We grab them. I think of them as the edge of the pool. There are documents in Ontario that I don't know if we even understand or remember. They exist. And these are documents that are policies. These are like, we don't go, oh, we'll follow that when we feel like it. So even if we didn't have a resolution, these are things we should be following. So I would ask people to look at things like Ontario's equity and inclusive education strategy. If we look at, there is a strategy called anti-Black racism strategy that goes back to 2017-18. It's been there. And if we go through it, it's not just for education. Education is a component of it, but it's a holistic view of how the province should be addressing the needs of this community, economically, in terms of education, in terms of other supports, in terms of harnessing the community itself, which is diverse and rich in all its ways. There is a Black Youth Action Plan. There are other things. These all help feed this as well. So I just want to make sure that we're reminded of that is something that even if we didn't come up with ourselves and pat ourselves on the back, it's been there, and it's something that we're all schools and all parts of the community are asked to respond to.
Thank you, Director Klein. With that, other questions you want to?
Thank you. Through Mr. Chair, I just feel the need to comment because I'm to manage expectations here, and I have my trustee hat on, but also have my operational hat on for my day job. There will probably be, and Director Klein, you can speak to this, there are going to be recommendations coming out of the committee that are purely operational that you as a Director of Education need to make that decision that will not come here. I just want to manage that expectation, that not every recommendation that comes to the committee will come to the board, right? Some of them will be operational and you will make that decision. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other trustees have comments or questions? Saying none, thank you, trustees, for your questions there. We shall now move on. Thank you, Ms. Jaraman, for presenting it once again. Look forward to the report. We move on to item 11.2, Capital Project Report, first quarter, September 1st to November 30th, 2024. Superintendent Lofts is not here. Director Klein. Superintendent Merrick, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. It's another short report here, but we have the capital projects report, and as the chair mentioned, it's all the expenditures up to November 30th, so about 2 months ago. But happy to take any questions the trustees might have. If I can answer it, I will find somebody to answer the question for you and get back to you on it.
Thank you, Superintendent Merrick, for your report. Trustees, any questions for Superintendent Merrick? Seeing none. Thank you, Superintendent Merrick, for presenting the report. We shall now move on to our next order of business is miscellaneous information. First item there, 12.1, student trustees update. Student trustee Philbert, please present the report.
All right, good evening, everyone. Our report is kind of long, but Lauren, Isabel, and I are really excited to highlight work from both HCDSB students and all the work that we do provincially. This kind of year, we decided to take a new angle and highlight both, as we feel as student trustees, it's important to not only support the students in our board, but take the views, values, and kind of beliefs of the HCDSB and involve that in our provincial work as well. So under achieving, I recognize that currently it is exam week, it's culminating season, and so a lot of students, while they are stressed out, a lot of schools and student-run clubs are taking on the liberties to support these students through wellness initiatives during lunch, through supportive announcements and posts outlining what you can do to keep yourself healthy and safe during exam season. I want to shout out Assumption, who had therapy dogs come in during culminating week to kind of give students that extra boost of happiness during what is usually very stressful time. Additionally, we want to recognize all of these students interested in becoming student trustees. So on December 21st, we had our student trustee information session, which was available to all students across the HCDSB who will be entering grade 11 or grade 12 next year. There, Lauren, Isabel, and I kind of gave them information on the role, how they can go about applying, and the type of student that we are looking for. So students can make sure that this is something that aligns with them, but also we want to recognize and celebrate their willingness to take that next step and achieve further. So we will be seeing all interested students who may or may not have attended, but selected students will present at our student trustee elections next month on February 12th. Additionally, within Believing, we recognize that all HCDSB students and their families had the opportunity to reflect and grow in faith over the Christmas holidays, which also allowed us as student trustees and HCDSB students to contribute to a video through the Ontario Student Trustees Association, or OSTA, our Catholic cabinet specifically. So the subsection of the organization worked on a video compilation highlighting what it means for students across the province to be Pilgrims of Hope. So we actually had about 15 submissions from HCDSB students, including myself, just describing what it means to be Pilgrims of Hope and leaders in our school. So we are really proud and thankful for all students that participated, and we cannot wait to share it with you guys on its completion. Additionally, under Belonging, we recognize that after a break, it is very hard to come back to school and come back here to things like board meetings, but we are really happy to announce that a lot of our clubs that, again, are student-run are planning on coming back with a lot of fun initiatives for students. I know STA has their Valentine's senior dance coming up. We have things like mock trials, DECA provincials, and the Black Excellence Symposium all happening within the next few weeks and next month. So we're really excited that while it is hard to come back to school, we are creating a lot of opportunities and spaces for students to get right back into the swing of things and feel that they have a community to be a part of and belong in at school. And lastly, under Becoming, we want to highlight again the work that we do provincially, as we are super excited and grateful to be attending the Education Action Conference in Ottawa next month in relation with OSTA ACO. So this happens every February, and student trustees are able to engage in strategic planning and receive a lot of development that we can then bring back to our operations here, especially within our student senate. Again, student trustee McGuire is doing a lot of work within her role in the Catholic cabinet to assemble materials to present at this conference. So we are very proud of her for doing that, and also excited to take that back to our own senate and own student operations to bring another Catholic lens. Additionally, we are all doing a lot of work behind the scenes for students in our advocacy interest groups. I'm personally a part of the curriculum group, so we're doing a lot on things like creating resources for students. Trustee McGuire is part of Truth and Reconciliation. So not only are we doing a lot of work for students outside of our board, but all of the learnings and all of the informations that we learn and provide there, we are also planning to bring back here as soon as it's available. And we're kind of lucky to be able to give an edge to our HCDSB students because we're in there and a part of doing the work. So we are really excited about that. And again, just looking forward to student trustee elections in February, which is very sad for Lauren and I as grade 12 students, but we are really happy to welcome whoever our incomings will be. So that is the report for tonight, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Trustee Philbert. Trustees, do we have questions, comments? Looks like there's no questions for you. So thank you for presenting your report and presenting all the wonderful things students and the Student Senate is working on. Thanks again. We shall move on to item 12.2 OCSTA update. Trustee Ohan Chinoda, do you have a verbal update?
I do. Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. So full transparency, I was going to write something up, but Director Klein summarized it on his weekly report to us. So I'm completely copying or lovingly lifting it from that. So last Thursday to Saturday, we were lucky enough, the trustees attended an OXTA seminar in Toronto. It was very well organized, and we had many speakers and workshop sessions were well timed and engaging. Father Jim Mockler, that's the OXTA's chaplain. He provided from the opening prayer to the final blessing an insightful and pastoral approach that challenged and encouraged us as leaders in Catholic education. It's hard to choose a highlight, but there are very interesting speakers. We had a keynote speaker, Deidre Kinzel-Biss. Her focus was leading with hope. One of the comments was, you know, I started there, maybe my hope bucket was a little empty. By the time I left that seminar, my hope bucket was filled back up again. So it was really great to attend that. She connected our trustee efforts to the year of Jubilee, day one. And at the seminar's conclusion, we had a speaker, Innovative Research Group President Greg Lyle, and he discussed current trends impacting education in Ontario. It was a review of global, national, and provincial data and trends. It was outstanding and very timely with everything that's going on in those particular areas of our lives. Deidre noted that hope is both a gift and a responsibility of us as Christians, and that hope does not disappoint. She encouraged all of us as trustees to serve hope through our stewardship, faith, and mission, advocacy, building community, and excellence in education. Greg's numerous data and descriptions of trends may have frankly challenged participants in our ability to hope. He described a world, nation, and province that has changed in many ways, but leads us to call prayerfully and hopefully to discern our way forward as essential. So thank you, Director Klein. That was a very good report. There are a lot of documentation in OXTA's website that I will send forward to everyone, because we had a workshop on skills. We had a workshop on media and public relations, and they're very close to our communications. Ms. Swindon, they had a lot of good things to say about you as well. So really, I encourage the seminar. It's a lot of learning. It happens every year around the same time every year, and there's a lot of learning that goes on. And it was, I was really glad to take a day's vacation to go to it. So thank you. Any questions or comments?
Trustees, any questions or comments for Trustee Ohan-Chinara?
No, thank
Saying
you.
None, thank you for presenting your report. We shall moving down the agenda. We have no correspondences today. Director Klein, do we have any open question periods? Any questions submitted for the open question period?
No.
Thank you. So we shall skip that over. Sorry.
Ask a question.
You have a question. It's not an open question.
It's just relevant to the last board meeting because we had new rules now with January. We spoke about it at the last board meeting about response rates for parents when we get correspondence. And there was something that we spoke about of giving like a one pager to trustees as a guideline, and that's starting to take effect now. Do we have that?
Yes, I think Ms. Swindon has got that note. She can send it to trustees. Ms. Swindon, go ahead.
I missed the question. I'm so sorry, Mr. Chair.
It's regarding the response to parents or stakeholders, standard kind of a template.
Sure, I can work with you on something. Yeah.
I think you have it ready. I think so. Yeah. Okay, Ms. Swindon will take care of that. As I said, we have no correspondences, open question period. We moved over that. We now move on to item number 15, in camera. We do not have to go in camera. Our next order of business is regarding item number 16, resolutions regarding absentees. We have student trustees McGuire and student trustee Yeboah, who have sent in their request, and I've been copied on an email from trustee Agnew. So may I have a motion to excuse trustee Agnew, Yeboah, and McGuire? Looking for a move of.
I'll move it.
Moved by trustee Ohan Janada. Looking for a seconder, please. Carabella. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Reminder to all trustees that board meetings are in person, and I shall send a notification to trustees just to refresh that we have policy I-28 and we have OREGs in place. We have our bylaws in place, so I shall send an email out. We shall now move on
Sorry,
to.
point of order, Mr.
Yes.
Chair.
Can you state a point of order?
Yeah, I'm not understanding what you just said there. I don't think it's
No,
mandatory.
you said point of order, trustee Ohanchanan. Please state your
I
point.
need clarification on your statement.
So it's not a point of order, it's clarification.
Thank you for correcting me. I appreciate the feedback.
Right. Yes.
So I don't understand what you just said there because we are allowed to attend virtually if we inform the chair.
Yes.
It's not mandatory that we're physically here right now. That's Bill 98.
Absolutely correct. So I want to send a refresher to trustees to read the policy, which you know, I-28, and we should be following that policy.
Okay, but what you just said was that it's mandatory to be at the board table. That is incorrect.
I did not say that. I said board meetings are in person.
Board meetings are in person. That means you can't attend virtually.
You can attend virtually, but we have policies in place which talks to that.
Okay, so
this is a requirement. It's a expectation from ministry that meetings are in person, and we have policies in place.
I respectfully disagree. Yeah. Bill 98 has not passed yet. Right. OXTA is lobbying against that.
Okay.
Okay, so you're allowed to attend a board meeting in person and virtually as long as they give the chair and the director of education fully notice. I just want to make sure because this is all being recorded.
That's what I'm saying.
I want to help you out.
Right, 100%. I agree with
perfect.
You. So I shall send a reminder to trustees to refresh themselves with policy I-28 and the pertinent OREG. We also have bylaws which talk to that, and the expectation is that we should all follow what we decided on.
Thank you for the clarification. I just want to make sure because next week I'm in Regina, or the next time I want to make sure. Thank you.
I wasn't referring to anything. Thanks so much for that, for the clarification. Okay. So with that, we shall move on to item number 17, which is the adjournment and closing prayer. May I have a motion to adjourn? Trustee Saunders moves. Looking for a seconder, please. Trustee Carabella. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Saying none, motion carries. We are adjourned. Trustee Kelly, please lead us in the closing prayer.
Thank you. This January, Pope Francis' prayer intention for the month was for the right of education. So with this intention in mind, please join me in the sign of our faith. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, as we conclude this meeting, we turn to you with hearts full of gratitude for the opportunity to serve our students and community. Inspired by Pope Francis' call to uphold the right to education, we ask for your guidance in ensuring that every child in our care has a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. May our decisions reflect your love and justice, and may we continue to walk together in building a more inclusive and equitable world in education. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Trustee Kelly. Thanks for a great meeting. Good night.